Hello, Tim Arrowwood here, People's Home Equity. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about credit scores. More than likely, you're getting this video because we've taken a quick look at your credit and there's some challenges, right? So, in general, I'll give you a little nugget here. In general, the higher your credit score, the less you're going to pay for credit, and the more options that you're going to have. If you've got an 800 score, and you're in great shape, right? Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have an 800 score to qualify for a mortgage. We can go as low as 580 for a score. We're going to talk about the different kinds of scores here in a second, but just keep in mind that if you have a 580 credit score, it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be more difficult. So, unless somebody's just desperate and they've got to get it into place, and we don't have any other options, the best thing to do is to look at how can I increase my score. So, in order to know how to increase your score, you've got to know a little bit of how scores work. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about that right now. So I'm going to switch over here to the little chart that talks about what makes up a credit score. Now, I've given you this visual, but hang with me for just a second. You got to remember that the credit scores that you see, let's do this. If you're on Credit Karma, the scores that you're going to see are not going to be accurate. Okay, they're not. They may be close, they may be way off, but they're not going to be accurate. And I can't emphasize that enough. Now, a couple things. So we're actually, as mortgage lenders, we're going to pull three different bureaus: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And we're going to throw away the highest score and the lowest score, and we're going to use the middle one. So anywhere you go, it's going to be the same thing. So it's very, very common that people get frustrated, first of all, because they're coming to us. They've got a free Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Credit Capital One, whatever. And those just are not the same. Now, again, if your score is very high, more than likely the correlation between the free credit reports and the actual ones are probably very close. But the way collections and late payments and things like that are looked at are going to be different. The differences are going to be more pronounced that way. Okay, so let's switch back over here. So we've talked about Credit Karma, and how we pull credit. Now I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself, but this is the service that I want to make sure that you understand. This is MyFICO, MyFICO.com. And anytime that you want to see what your actual credit scores are, mortgage scores, you need to sign up for Premier, spend $40 a month, and you can do it for only just 1 month. Or if you're like me and you're a bit of a nerd, you're going to do it every month and you're just going to monitor it that way. Okay. Now, I'm going to rewind a little bit. Let's go talk about what makes up those credit scores. So the way this pie chart is, and the percentages are very close, but they're not exact. The credit bureaus don't give us a map that says, oh, this is exactly what you do. This is exactly how it works. It's a little bit like a black box. And that black box is, it's difficult. My analogy that I've told people in the past is that you can't look inside the box, but you can shake the box. You can smell the box. You can weigh the box. You can measure the box. You can do a lot of things, but you can't look inside the box. So the more times that you have that you can shake that box and touch it, you're going to have a better chance to guess it right. So you're going to guess it, and then once you open the box, you're going to say, I got it right, or I need to adjust. So I, as a consumer, doesn't really get to touch that box very often. I get to touch that box a lot. I also have a company that I use, people that I trust, have known for years, called Credit Security Group. And that's their job, is to shake boxes and smell them and measure them and that kind of thing. So they get much better. Now, let me back up again and say this is a general breakdown of what makes up one's credit report. I focus on these two right here: payment history and amounts owed. Now, payment history, I call it, did you pay as agreed? Okay. If you agreed to pay $25 a month as a minimum payment on that credit card, and you do pay that, then that's an attaboy or an attagirl. There's no extra. You don't get any extra for paying more. You just get extra. You just get the satisfaction of, did you pay as agreed? Now, if agreed means you don't have to pay anything, a lot of people in forbearance right now with student loans especially, then if you agreed to pay zero and you pay zero, then you're paying as agreed. So payment history has a lot to do with your score. You can see it's the biggest part of it. As you might imagine, the creditor wants to know that if I extend credit to you, you're going to pay your bills. That's really what we're trying to establish. So payment history is in this rendering 35% of what makes up your score. Now, the problem with this is that it's difficult to change this very quickly. So if you've been late on payments and it's been very recent, then that's going to have the highest impact on your score. Now, once you bring that payment current, or let's say you've, this would also represent maybe collections and things like that. So a lot of people will come and have multiple collections. Well, you can't just pay it off and then, everything's good. So it takes time. So the way I phrase it is that when you bring things current, or you pay something off, or you're in a payment agreement, then that stops the bleeding and allows the healing to start, but it doesn't immediately heal you. Okay, so that's payment history. Now, the other roughly third is the amount owed. Now, the amount owed is based not necessarily. It's what is your utilization rate on revolving debt. Now, there's two different kinds. There's revolving or credit cards. You have a credit limit you can get into and out of that limit. So that's going to be a revolving account versus an installment loan. Installment loan, you're going to buy that car, you get a $10,000 installment loan. You're going to pay that off. As you pay it off, the balance gets smaller. There's no getting back into, you're increasing the loan amount without creating another loan. So what we're talking about here is what do you owe in relationship to what your balances are. This is the area that I have the best ability to help somebody with their credit. Now, so what I find is a couple of different things. So if someone has a low credit score, a lower credit score, I immediately try to find out, what is going on with the payment history. Because if there's old collections, old non-medical collections in this payment history, and somebody's had a repossession of an auto, and there's a $15,000 balance sitting out there, those are difficult to get current. Those require some work, right? And that's just my joke is it's above my pay grade. I don't really know how to fix that. Now, when we come into this, the amount owed, that's a spot where I feel very comfortable giving advice. What I mean by that is I can look at somebody's credit report, and let's say that you've got a $300 credit card, and you have $315 on that credit card. Because you're over the limit, the credit card company will allow you to go over your limit, but that's going to drive your credit score down considerably. And what's going to happen with but that's an easy fix. If you just pay down the balance on that credit card, then give yourself 30 to 45 days and that credit score is going to come up. If you're over your limit, that's a huge flag, and it will drive your score down significantly. Now, the next phase is, let's say you've got 3 or 4 credit cards, and each of them are, one of them is over limit. The others don't have anything on them. Well, just pay down that one. And the target balance is about 8 to 10% of the available limit. So if you've got a $1,000 limit on a card, have $80 to $100 on that card, and that's going to get you that's going to be the sweet spot. Now, you can pay it off, just don't close them because that's going to that's going to go into some of the length of credit history things. So you want to keep the old cards. It's a game. Credit is like a game. If you're not comfortable playing the game, don't play the game. If you don't have any self-discipline, don't play the game. But you can understand the way the game works and be able to maximize it to your benefit. So talking about the amounts owed, if somebody has low balances on credit cards, low limits, on credit cards, and you've got a couple $1,000s in the bank and you can pay those limits down, that is easy pickings. Now, the challenge is when somebody comes in and they got a $15,000 balance on a $14,500 limit card, it's hard to move that needle unless they've just got a lot of money in the bank to be able to pay that down. So this area right here is going to be the area that I'm going to spend the most time to look at. So how can we get your credit scores down? Sorry, I said, how can you get your credit scores down? How are you going to get your balances down? How quickly can we do that? And how quickly are you going to respond? So if you're at a 585 credit score and you have three $300 limit cards that are all maxed out, I'm going to say, there's other things that are affecting this, but I'm going to say first thing is going to pay those balances down, leave a little bit on them, but work from there and let's do that, and let's monitor those and see how that works out. When I say monitor them, I'm going to digress here. So we're going to go back to Credit Karma. So what I'm going to do, my suggestion is, let's say you've come in and I've pulled your credit, we've pulled your credit, and we've shared with you what those numbers are. And they're not where they need to be, and you know that we need to move them up. So the first thing I suggest is if it has to do with the amounts owed, let's work on that. Let's come up with a payment plan or a plan to get those down. Now, there's no use paying one of those. If you got 3 cards, and there's no use paying one of them completely off and have the other 2 maxed out. Take it down to where each of those has, if you can afford to get all 3 of them at 80%, then do that. If you can afford to get them all at 50%, do that, and work your way down. Spread that across and look at the percentages. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at that point. We know where we're at. We have a baseline because I've given you the scores. I'm going to suggest you go to Credit Karma and find out what those scores are and watch your scores. When you see your balances start to show up on Credit Karma that match what your balances really are, and now you're down to 30% utilization rate, and Credit Karma says your scores have come up, that's only a clue. And so at that point, what we want to do is we want to find out what your real scores are. There's 2 ways to do that. You can call me, we'll re-pull your credit. I don't mind to do that. The challenge though is when we do that, it's considered a hard pull, and it can negatively affect your score. So if you're marginal, if you're very, very close, we want to know what we're getting into before we pull your credit, right? So I don't want to pull it and hurt you. That's really where I'm at. And I've had lenders, people come to me and they've got a lender they've worked with, and they've pulled their credit every month thinking some miracle is going to happen. And it's just beating them up every month. So what I suggest is that you monitor with Credit Karma till we think it's close, and we can look at the trends. So let's say I've told you your score, you checked what Credit Karma was, you paid things off, now it's 30 days later. Credit Karma says your score is up 30 points, 50 points, 20 points, whatever it is. I think it's where it needs to be. I can pull it. I prefer that you go to the next step, which is to go to MyFICO. MyFICO allows you to pull your own scores for several different types of loans, and it is the number. It's not just accurate, it is the number. Now, if you ever do that, go to Premier, go to myfico.com, go to Premier, and you need the $40 a month plan. You can do it just once if you want, or you can do it multiple times, have it set up on a monthly, which I'm kind of a nerd that way, so I do that. When you do that, you're gonna log in and you look for a certain credit score. Now I'm a little bit ahead of myself here. I'm going to go back to the breakdown. So we've talked about the payment history. We've talked about the amount owed. The rest of this is the types of credit. You need a mix, for example, of installment and revolving. New credit, if you've got opened 3 credit cards in the last month and a half, or you've got a new car a month ago. Those would be some of the things that could possibly negatively affect your credit. And the length of your credit history. If you just opened those cards or just got that installment, then there's just not a lot of history to go with that. So it's hard for me to help you affect the length of the credit history other than to advise you, don't close those old credit cards. It's hard for me to, when you come to me and you've already had your credit pulled or had it already established other credit, and I really can't do anything about that. The types of credit, I can advise you and say, it looks like you have two installments, but you have no credit cards. That might be an excuse to go get a credit card, get a low balance or a low limit card, put Netflix or buy a tank full of gas or buy a cheeseburger once a month and pay it off, show some activity. That's going to help build that credit. But you can have, but the big one that I run into that I can help people with is the amount owed. So let's say we've looked at Credit Karma. It's favorable. It looks like this might work. I'm going to have you go to myfico.com, go to Premier, get you the $40 a month plan, and you're going to, let's log in. Now, this is a dummy account that I have. I'm going to log in here, and we're going to act like these are real scores. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Reports. And I'm going to go look. This report was pulled today, 4/30 of 21. Okay, and so this is going to show the real numbers. So I'm going to go to Scores. And I'm going to look at the different kind of scores that are available. Well, look at that. I've got this dummy account's got a 712, 719, and 704. Well, that's not really accurate. That's the wrong score. That's FICO Score 8. What is FICO Score 8? I have no idea, honestly, what a FICO Score 8 is. Let's look at the different types of, there's mortgage rate, there's auto loans, there's credit cards, and there's other. So you can see these numbers are all over the place. 712, 719, 704, at 716, 732, 724. Autos are they're all over the place. But in this case, let's see, those are credit cards. Where's the mortgage? Mortgage scores. So 17, 732, and 724. So we're looking at, these are FICO Score 5, 4, and 2. Those are the key ones that you're going to be looking at. FICO Scores 5, 4, and 2. And you're going to have that's where you're going to, if I were to, with this dummy account, if I were to pull that account today, then I'm going to see 716, 732, and 724. If this were your credit report, I would see those scores. So that's the beauty of myfico.com. All right. So I can't emphasize that enough. That's the best thing. Then you call us and we say, hey, my score is above 640 now, or it's at the target we want to be. When we pull this credit, we pull a credit on the same day that you've pulled your credit, your MyFICO scores, we're going to see those exact same numbers. I've never had it work out differently than that. All right. So let's see here. Now, when we go back to here, there are things, as I mentioned, I'm really good at this part, the amount owed, and giving some advice there. Now, if it's some of these other things, I just don't touch it. I've made mistakes in the past. Don't want to do that with you. I will tell you that I go to Credit Security Group. These are the people that I send everybody to. You don't have to do them. I don't get any kickbacks. I just trust them. They've worked with me through the years, and they're high integrity people. And I in this industry, in that industry, there's a lot of sharks out there. They'll take your money, promise you a lot of things. I don't get that feedback. I think at least 10 years I've been sending people to these guys. And so I suggest you look them up for yourself. This guy right here is the one I usually work with, Mike Garcia. There's Eddie Johansson. I've known him for years. The other folks I don't know, but they're all on that team. So they're just experts in the business. So there's a cost to have a consultation with them. I don't know what it is. But if you're serious about getting your credit fixed, I say credit fixed. I got to be careful. If you're serious about making strides with your credit, talk to a professional. If it's not them, find somebody that you trust. But I just trust these guys. So I hope that's been helpful. And hopefully you recognize that we want to help. I have to be careful. I don't want to give you wrong advice. This is based on my experience. And I think that it'll help you. So if you have any questions, give us a call. We'd love to help. And we'll talk to you soon.